I'm using the ElectroSmash webpage for the analysis of the Fuzz Face, because he does a really good breakdown of how it works. The Fuzz Face essentially is not like any other pedal. It doesn't have a buffer. Like all Boss pedals have buffers, many pedals have buffers. So the front end of the gain section is very sensitive to changes in impedance. And it's this impedance change that, you know, if you roll off your guitar volume, you get this much cleaner sound, and it almost feels like a clean boost if you get it right. So let's have a look at the circuit diagram. Comes in many form factors, or many shapes and sizes, I should say. And this is the diagram. So this is an NPN. So we know there's two types of Fuzz Face. There's a silicon and a germanium. So this diagram here represents a germanium. So we have the first gain stage here, second gain stage here. First gain stage basically feeds the second gain stage. We can control the fuzz. This ratio of resistors, you can say, controls the gain. This capacitor here on the front end is a high pass filter, and the value of it's really large. It's 22 microfarads, or sorry, 2.2 microfarads in this drawing. So that means it's going to pass a lot of low frequencies, i.e., as we all know, that the bass response in a Fuzz Face is very high. It's a very fuzzy, it's a very bassy fuzz. And then and 0.1 microfarad, 0.01 microfarad on the output cleans up some of the high end. And then we have the output, which is the volume knob, and then the fuzz knob here. So that's effectively controlling the gain of the second stage. So a silicon gain stage, which consists basically of an NPN transistor. Get that thing in focus. You can buy these in the millions. They're easy to come by. They have faster switching speeds, higher gain, so they're good for a lot of different applications. But a lot of connoisseurs of the Fuzz Face prefer a germanium, and so I've got some examples of germanium here. They have lower gain. In fact, their gain could be anywhere, so you really need to use some kind of device for measuring the gain. I have a vintage curve tracer. So this top hat version here, that's a Russian one. This is a Japanese one. And this is a British one, a Mullar's or a Philips, so it could be Dutch. Maybe made in Southampton, England, or somewhere in the Netherlands. Don't know. So let's go on to do some tests. So I'm going to use a signal generator, and I'll talk about that in a second. Input a signal here, and then we're going to monitor the output on an oscilloscope, and we're going to play with the gain, we're going to play with the volume, and we're also going to play with the input impedance as well. And we'll compare that between the silicon, the germanium, and also we'll look at the modified Concordski, which is essentially a Fuzz Face at heart, but you can adjust the frequency response and the impedance of the front end of the device. So we have a variable filter section here in the Concordski. I've got the two Fuzz Faces on the bench. One is a silicon, one is a germanium. Also, I've got the Calsonics Concordski here as well, which we can do a comparison to later as well. And I've got the setup with a JHS little volume pot here. I measured it earlier, and it's a 100k pot, it looks like, and we can turn the amplitude going in to the Fuzz Faces, and we can control the output with the volume. Obviously the pedal's not engaged yet, so it has no effect, but once we engage the pedal, you can see how the output will be affected by this, and the input's going to be affected by this. So first of all, let's engage a silicon, and now you can see it's definitely hard clipping. It's asymmetrical, so the center line here represents the 0 volt line, and so most of the signal that's coming out of here is a plus voltage. Conversely, we use the germanium, and you can see it's a negative going voltage. Obviously, this is going to be the PMP device, so uses negative swings, and this is the NPN device, different types of transistors, and so this one has the positive swing. And you can also see that the gain, you know, we've got everything on full here. The gain on the silicon is less than the gain on the germanium, i.e. this signal is much higher, that much versus about that much. So if we turn the fuzz down, we can see it cleans up a little bit. It's still very hard, asymmetrically clipped. Some of the edges now are rounding off on the oscilloscope. We look closely, you see we've got these nicer round edges. So that's reducing the harmonic content of the output. So we'll get a little less fuzz, but you know what a fuzz face sounds like when you turn down the fuzz knob. And then when we turn it up, very quickly it goes to almost a square, which means it's got tons and tons of harmonic content if we looked at it on a spectrum analyzer. And that is what essentially is creating the fuzz. If we also switch the time base back again, if we also turn down the volume now, you can see when we turn down the volume, remembering the volume is on the output stage, you can see it cleans up a little bit when we got here, but it's still definitely asymmetrically clipped. Now the interesting thing is if you turn down the input, so we all know when you have a fuzz face, especially a germanium fuzz face, you turn down the guitar volume, which is what the JHS pedals representing here. So if we turn that down, all of a sudden we see it, first of all, still distorting because it's a square wave, but now it's symmetrical. So it's a symmetrical distortion. And as we keep turning it down, the edges really start to clean up. And at that point there, we have almost a pure sine wave. I can see a little bit of distortion on it, but that's cleaned up really well. Almost equivalent to the sine wave that we're putting into the pedal. Can't see it because I've turned the volume down. There it is. So you can see they're pretty much equivalent. And you can see the gain, of course. When I turn it to about here, you can't see the signal. It's there. I mean, if I adjust the vertical resolution on the oscilloscope, now it's very hard to see. It's buried in the noise, but so it shows that the gain of the fuzz face is quite large. So if we did the same with the silicon, it does clean up as well. It's got. Oh, I need to change this. Oh, wait. I change the silicon again. You see it first goes symmetrical, and then it goes asymmetrical before cleaning up. So slightly different behavior of the silicon transistors. We also talked about the large capacitor at the front of the fuzz face, and this passes a lot of bass, and we can see that here. I've got the signal generator now set to 10 Hertz, and there's still a prominent signal here on the oscilloscope. So if I increase the frequency by 10 Hertz at a time, so on this is 20 Hertz, 30 Hertz, 40 Hertz, 50 Hertz, 60 Hertz, the amplitude remains about the same all the way up to 100 Hertz. And then I back it back down to 10 Hertz. You can see not much change. So it's letting through a lot of signal and it's distorting a lot of low frequency or bass signal. Now, if we go back up to say 100 Hertz and then flip over to the Concordski, not only do we use an attenuator, but it's combined with a filter. So in this mode, when I've got this knob all the way to the right, its performance should be identical to a fuzz face. And so we decrease it all the way down to 10 Hertz, and it looks pretty much identical. A bit more gain in the Concordski than the fuzz face. So if I take that back up to 100, and now if I adjust this control here, which we call the supersonic button because it really affects the sonics because it's a filter, and an impedance changer for the front end of the pedal. At 100 hertz now, you can see, first of all, we've gone from asymmetrical through to symmetrical, and it's staying in symmetrical clipping. So let me bring it down now to 10 hertz, and soon the signal starts to disappear in amplitude, and at 10 hertz it's gone away. So what we've done is we've been able to change the impedance and the frequency response simultaneously by adjusting this button. And what this does is give us a great way to, first of all, clean up the sound, by reducing volume, because this is an attenuator on the front of the pedal connected to a filter, and it also allows us to take some of the bass out, and you can do that to taste. So sometimes I like to use it a little round halfway. It gives me a nice chug, more like a distortion. And here is full fuzz face again. So that's an interesting feature of the Concordski pedal. It has what we call the supersonic or the sonic control, because we're controlling sonics, i.e. we're controlling impedance and frequency response simultaneously.